Snowflake Bentley by Jacqueline Briggs Martin, illustrated by Mary Ezran. This received the Caldecott Medal, which is an award for the pictures. Snowflake Bentley. In the days when farmers worked with ox and sled and cut the dark with lantern light, there lived a boy who loved snow more than anything else in the world. Willie Bentley's happiest days were snow days. He watched snowflakes fall on his mittens on the dried grass of Vermont farm fields. On the dark metal handle of the barn door, he said snow was as beautiful as butterflies or apple blossoms. Wilson Bentley was born February the 9th, 1865, on a farm in Jericho, Vermont, between Lake Champlain and Mount Mansfield, in the heart of the snow belt, where the annual snowfall is about 120 inches. He could net butterflies and show them to his older brother Charlie. He could pick apple blossoms and take them to his mother, but he could not share snowflakes because he could not save them. Willie's mother was his teacher until he was about 14 years old. He attended school for only a few years. She had a set of encyclopedias, Willie said, and he read them all. When his mother gave him an old microscope, he used it to look at flowers, raindrops, and blades of grass. Best of all, he used it to look at snow. While other children would build forts and pelted snowballs at roosting crows, Willie was catching single snowflakes. Day after stormy day, he studied their icy crystals. From his boyhood on, he studied all forms of moisture. He kept a record of the weather and did many experiments with raindrops. Their intricate patterns were even more beautiful than he had imagined. He expected to find whole flakes that were the same, that were copies of each other, but he never did. Willie decided that he must find a way to save snowflakes so others could see their wonderful designs. For 3 winters, he tried drawing snowflakes. They always melted before he could finish. He learned that most crystals had 6 branches, even though a few had 3. For each snowflake, the 6 branches were alike. I found that snowflakes were masterpieces of designs, he said. No one design was ever repeated. When a snowflake melted, just that much beauty was gone, without leaving any record behind. Starting at age 15, he drew hundreds of snow crystals each winter for 3 winters. When he was 16, Willie read of a camera with its own microscope. If I had that camera, I could photograph snowflakes, he told his mother. Willie's mother knew that he would not be happy until he could share what he had seen. Fussing with snow is such foolishness, his father said. Still, he loved his son. When Willie was 17, his parents spent their savings and bought that camera. It was taller than a newborn calf and cost as much as his father's herd of 10 cows. Willie was sure it was the best of all cameras. The camera made images on large glass negatives. Its microscope could magnify a tiny crystal from 64 to 3,600 times its actual size. Even so, his first pictures were failures, no better than snow shadows. Yet he would not quit. Mistake by mistake, snowflake by snowflake, Willie worked through every storm. Winter ended, the snow melted, and he had no good pictures. He waited for another season of snow. One day in the second winter, he tried a new experiment, and he worked. Willie had figured out how to photograph snowflakes. Now everyone can see the great beauty of a tiny crystal, he said. This was Willie's experiment. He used a very small lens opening, which let in only a little light to reach the negative, but he kept the lens open for several seconds, up to 1.5 minutes. He learned, too, that he could make the snow crystals show up more clearly by using a sharp knife to cut away all the dark parts of the negative around the crystals. This etching meant several hours of work for each photograph, but Willie did not mind. But in those days, no one cared. Neighbors laughed at the idea of photographing snow. Snow in Vermont is as common as dirt, they'd say. We don't need pictures. Willie said the photographs would be his gift to the world. While other farmers sat by the fire, or rode to town with horse and sleigh, Willie studied snowstorms. He stood at the shed door and held out a black cloth to catch the snowflakes. When he found only jumbled broken crystals, he brushed the tray clean with a turkey feather and held it out again. He waited hours for just the right crystal, and it did not notice the cold. If the shed was warm, the snow would melt. If he breathed on the black tray, the snow would melt. If he twitched a muscle, as he held the snow crystal on the long wooden pick, the snowflakes would break. He had to work fast, or the snowflake would evaporate before he could slide it into place and take its picture. Some winters he was able to make only a few dozen good pictures. Some winters he made hundreds. As he learned that each snowflake began as a speck, much too tiny to be seen, little bits of snowflake or water attached to the speck to form its branches. As the crystal grows, the branches come together and trap small quantities of air. Many things affect the way these crystal branches grow. A little more cold, a little less wind, or a bit more moisture will mean different shaped branches. While Willie said that was why in all his pictures he never found two snowflakes alike. The best snowstorm of his life occurred on Valentine's Day in 1928. He made over 100 photographs during the 2-day storm. He called the storm a gift from King Winter. Willie so loved the beauty of nature, he took pictures in all seasons. In the summer, his nieces and nephews rubbed coat hangers with sticky patch from spruce trees. Then Willie would use them to pick up spider webs, jeweled with water drops, and take their pictures. On fall nights, he would gently tie a grasshopper to a flower so he could find it in the morning and photograph the dew-covered insect. Willie's nieces and nephews lived on one side of the farmhouse that Willie shared with his brother Charlie. Willie often played the piano as they sang and shared stories and games with them. But his snowflake pictures were always his favorite. He gave copies away or sold them for a few cents. He made special pictures as gifts for birthdays. He held evening slideshows on the lawn of his friends. Children and adults sat on the grass and watched as Willie projected his slides onto a sheet hung over a clothesline. Many colleges and universities bought lantern slide copies of his photographs and added to their confections each year. Artists and designers used the photographs to inspire their own work. He wrote about snow and published his pictures in magazines. He gave speeches about snow to faraway scholars and neighborhood skywatchers. "You're doing a great work," said a professor from Wisconsin. The little farmer came to be known as the world's expert on snow, or the Snowflake Man. But he never grew rich. He spent every dime on his pictures. Willie said they were treasures in snow. "I can't afford to miss a single snowstorm," he told a friend. "I never know when I will find some wonderful prize." Other scientists raised money so Willie could gather his best photographs in a book, when he was 66 years old, Willie's book, His Gift to the World, was published. But he still was not ready to quit. Even today, those who want to learn about snow crystals begin with William Bentley's book, Snow Crystals. In 1926, he had spent $15,000 on his work and received $4,000 from the sale of photographs and slides. Less than a month after turning the first page of his book, Willie walked 6 miles home in a blizzard to take more pictures. He became ill with pneumonia after that walk, and he died 2 weeks later. This is an actual picture of Willie himself. The average dairy farmer gets up at dawn because he has to go to work in the cow field. I would get up at dawn too, but it was because I wanted to find some leaf hung with dew or a spider web which the dew had made into the moist, delicate ropes of pearls. I'd take my camera with me, get down on my knees in the wet grass, and photograph these excellent bits of nature. Because I do this, I can show these lovely things to people who never would have seen them without my help. They will get their daily quart of milk, all right. Other farmers would attend to that, but I think I'm giving them something which is just as important. Snowflake Bentley.